Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Litecoin Underground podcast. So this week is another clip from a Spaces we had a couple weeks ago, and my primary goal was to talk about remittances. So you'll hear in the episode, I kind of had a couple experiences and got to thinking about what's the real value of Litecoin in the near term, in the short term. Like, what's something that is a use case that can be valuable to people today, not hypothetically in the future, not we're going to become the world reserve currency or a national currency, but what's a genuine pain point that Litecoin can solve today. And, to me, it's very clear that if somebody's paying a large fee to move money from one country to another, then that's what these monies are meant for, to be able to do that without any kind of intermediary and save quite a bit of cost. So I thought it was an interesting conversation. We veer into an interesting area, which often happens in Spaces. We end up talking a bit about healthcare because one of the guys who comes in, I call him Animal. I don't know his tag on Twitter. I know it starts at ANML, so that's why I've always called him Animal. But he talked about going down there. He's from Canada, and the healthcare he wanted wasn't really readily available in Canada, so he had to go to Mexico, and he talks about stem cells a little bit, and I don't know, I thought it was interesting, and that tends to be what these spaces do, is we kind of meander in our conversation, which I like. I think that's, getting off topic once in a while is kind of nice. We don't have to talk about cryptocurrency all the time. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and I appreciate the support as always. Have a good week. Titled this Grassroots Adoption, but we got into ordinals, which is fine. Actually, I thought that was an interesting conversation. But I was driving down to work down the highway, and I drove by this bus. It was called a tornado bus. And I was like, and it was all, and I'm up in Ohio, right? It was like to Houston. What's the one way down south? San Antonio, is it Brownsville? Something like that. And all the language on the side of the bus was Spanish, and it was clear to me, like, okay, this is intended, for Spanish-speaking people. To get down to Texas, it might be migrant work. I'm not really sure what the purpose of it was, because I'm 1,000 miles away. And then just today, again, I saw the same bus. I was driving at the same time, so maybe it's a regular run, and it just really made me think about, like, some of our, we get very kind of scattered in what are the things we want to work on, right? As we just did right there. We talked about a couple things, but like the most obvious place that Litecoin can be valuable to people is in remittances, and like catering to that market of people who are sending money from the USA to not only Latin America. I was surprised how much money is sent to, I think India is the most money that's sent around the world. China, I want to say Nigeria was one. I was surprised that it wasn't just, I kind of figured Latin America was the most obvious one, but it just made me think about, like, that's such a simple place for Litecoin to make sense for users. Purely, even if it's just purely, I buy it, I move the money, and then on the other end they sell it and replace Western Union. Because Western Union, or fees, they said, I think the IMF, I looked up a report, in the US to basically anywhere, the lowest fees are about 6.5%, and they can get up 15 to 20%. In other parts of the world, like Australia to Papua New Guinea was one. It was like 23% or something is the rate they pay, the fees that are combined between the sending fee and the receiving fee, whatever it is you have to pay. There's always some sort of agent on each side, right? And yeah, I feel like that's a place that we get so focused on the big, we want to adopt a country, or you want to, some bank or some app to add Litecoin. It's like, in the reality, the people that will build this thing are the people that can see real value and save. If you imagine 6% of all your paycheck just getting taken because you're sending it to your family, that's just pointless. And I don't know how to do that, but I feel like that's such a place for us to target and think about how do we how do we facilitate that and try to understand what are the roadblocks? Are people doing that like today with Bitcoin, um, with Lightning? Are they trying to do it with different things and maybe not having any success? I don't know. I know again, these are just ideas I'm throwing out there. I just feel like that's something that we're really kind of missing the boat on because it's a huge. I think I think India was like $200 billion a year. Some crazy number of dollars get shipped overseas. And then that led me to looking at, like I said today, Belize and Barbados are two places that could realistically adopt Litecoin, where you could use Litecoin and there's no capital gains tax. So there'd be no need to report any tax gains or losses on it. I don't know. That's just a thing. You guys can. Nobody seems interested in talking about that. But Al Lighthouse, he told me, he said that he did some stuff sending money to his family or his wife's family or something. And that was where instantly like the light went off with her of like, oh, okay, now I get it, right? Because it's so quick and easy. You don't have to go report to go find a Western Union station and all that.
But
All
so,
right.
how does PayPal and Venmo factor into this? Like, it it does that, doesn't it?
I don't know. I don't know if you're allowed to send internationally.
With Litecoin?
Well, with Litecoin you can. I don't know what it takes to have a PayPal account.
Oh.
Do you have to have a bank to have a PayPal account?
Uh, I don't know. I think it having a bank account makes it a lot easier. You might be able to just use PayPal as a bank account. Like if you have a business and accept money from people, you might not need to have a bank account. But I don't know. My bank account's linked to my PayPal.
Yeah,
Um,
me too. So you got PayPal. I mean, there's Venmo. That MoneyGram was another one, right? That um, added Litecoin, gosh, maybe a year ago, along with Bitcoin and Ethereum. And like, I even got to imagine like stuff like, you got like your Coinstar out there or, ATMs. But the problem with those is those are even more expensive than than you would be paying the 6%. A lot of those are, just heinous, the rates that those people charge. And I understand maybe they have to protect themselves against, uh, you know, the market moving. They probably have to pay rent for the space or something right there. They're giving a cut to the shop owner or something like that. But that feels like a place that we're really it's an obvious place that Litecoin fits. And I'm not quite sure what we would need to do to make that happen. Because I think like Indigo, what you've definitely sparked, in my opinion, is that there are so many things that can be done that need, and granted you're not doing the coding, but you're at least putting it out there as far as a bounty. You're doing a little bit of digging to say, okay, this is what needs to be done. Can somebody do it? And we're finding for a fairly low cost these things are possible. There's no reason we can't find a way to make this accessible for people. I mean, it's simply like I looked this company up, Tornado Bus or whatever it is. They've got like 350 Twitter followers. So it's probably somebody you could reach out to, picking up a phone and saying, is there a way to incorporate this? Would this be something that would be interesting to you? Would you accept payment in this? Um, and what would be the hurdles to do that? And just learning, asking some questions to find out why don't they, what would be the problems, and then taking that information back and okay, let's try to solve it. And it's almost like one at a time. What are these migrant services that people that that are used? And if people see, hey, Litecoins, I can spend Litecoin everywhere, it just feels like it's just obvious. It's sitting right in front of our face. You know what I mean? Or Javier's coming up. He can speak to it. He's our Latin American connection.
he's. I was in Mexico last week, actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
you tell me. I don't know. Then what are we missing?
But I mean, I was in there for a medical procedure, right? And Actually, I have a bum rotator cuff,
Can I give a timeout
and
for that? Hang on. You live in
sure,
Canada. You live in Canada with free health care,
that's right.
and you went to Mexico for a rotator
Yeah,
cuff.
correct. Well, because in Canada over here, they're like, listen, you got a tear, so for that we got to cut you up and stitch it together, right? Um, and after doing some research, not a lot, like what first led me to it was Mel Gibson on Rogan, and then I did some more digging. I found there's a bunch of other testimonials from famous people and MMA fighters, for example, doing stem cell therapy. And it's really interesting how Mexico and countries in Central America like Colombia and Panama have really risen to the challenge just because um, of bringing like state-of-the-art stem cell therapies to the market, just because of the regulatory chokehold that the pharmaceutical industry has on the U.S. and Canadian, I guess Canadian hospitals. Um, Essentially, so this is like a conspiracy theory I'm about to lay out, but it's, I mean, pretty much agreed upon by most of the people that I've spoken to. Um, there's not, so the excuse that my doctor told me for not recommending it or for not even wanting to talk about it was that there wasn't enough uh, data. There wasn't enough, studies being made. There wasn't enough, research articles published about it. Um, that, they felt comfortable. And in fact, there are a bunch of clinical trials for stem cell therapy for things like arthritis and different autoimmune diseases. But it's moving at such a glacial pace. And in fact, George W. Bush in the States, he banned it while he was in office.
I remember that. It was a big debate. Yeah. For
And
religious
yeah,
reasons.
exactly. He said it was satanic, right? He said you were taking babies and then taking parts from babies, right? And then injecting them into yourselves. Um, I mean, that this isn't the case at all. It couldn't be, well, look, I want to say it couldn't be further from the truth. They're taking the, like, essentially umbilical cords, which are technically part of the mother, and the placenta, right? And they're using this, and this is donated. These are donated stems, like umbilical cords and donated placentas from um, women who have scheduled C-sections. And so the babies are out there living full and healthy lives, right? Like it's not like they're losing anything. And so, okay, so here's the nuance now with Mexico and Colombia and Panama. They're able to culture stem cells. Their government has allowed, regulated, and has set up a framework for labs um, to comply with in multiplying stem cells. So, whereas in North America, you can have if you have a child and the mother has a scheduled C-section, you can have the umbilical cord and placenta harvested and stored, right? Cryogenically stored for a yearly fee, and the initial harvesting costs money too, um, which is great. Which I think is probably the most like if I were to have a kid, I would certainly do that. Um, but it's really limiting because so those stem cells can only be used for you and your family. Like I don't even think it could work for your extended family. I'm not sure if, say, I had some that I could, give them to my grandmother, for a bummed hip. Um, Whereas in Mexico, they're allowed to essentially. So the clinic I went to was telling me that the lab that they use, they get one umbilical cord and placenta unit um, every 6 months, and from that they're able to make so many stem cells, right? They're able to culture, multiply stem cells to the point where they can serve their clients for 6 months. Um,
It's like this
and
Ancient Monkeys inscriptions, right?
yeah, yeah, they make child cells, right? So yeah, I went down there because I was in a lot of pain. Like I wasn't able to sleep because there was nothing I could do, no position I could get in that would make it comfortable for my shoulder. Um, and so I went down there. I got some, like I got a bunch injected in my shoulder, and I got even an IV. And it was pretty affordable. Like, so it was like, $5,000 US. For me, like, something related to your health is I just put on my credit card. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, fuck it.
Well, yeah, if you can't
I
sleep,
put,
yeah.
and no, the guy was accepting crypto, and I actually had brought some Litecoin down with me, but it was a Monday, and the Monday I went to pay, Litecoin went down $10, right? It was at 90 before, and then it went down to 80. I was like, well, I'll just put on my credit card. I'm
Right.
not gonna
Yeah.
sell here. And I really should have, because it's going down now. It's like I would have been on top today, but whatever. Can't
Right.
uh, can't tell the future.
Hey guys, quick break in the action because I wanted to tell you guys about Cake Wallet. You know they're the official Litecoin underground wallet. What I want to tell you really quick is all the exciting things you can do with Cake Wallet. I've been using it for a long time, and they just keep adding more functionality for people that actually want to hold and spend their cryptocurrency. You know you can swap between cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Monero, and hundreds of others. You obviously can hold those assets, Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Monero in the wallet. You can buy inside the app if you want to. You can use CakePay, which is a bunch of gift cards. I use them all the time. I use them at AutoZone, Home Depot. I take my family to the movies, I take them to dinner, and I'm always using my Litecoin. And it's such an easy way to do it. They've also have a new way of invoicing customers, Trocador app. There's Bird Pay, so you can tip people on Twitter. You could even tip me, hypothetically, if you wanted to. Just go into Cake Wallet, type at LTC Underground, and send, 10 cents just for the fun of it to try it out. So download Cake Wallet, and I'll let you get back to the show.
See,
Yeah,
see,
I
this
mean,
is takes me to my price
it's,
pumping reduces adoption
it, and
because we're
I understand.
excited for the price to go up. So we go, I don't want to sell it. But if
Hey,
we can
hey,
see it
Animal,
go,
just a quick comment. Yeah, the thing is, you're right, underground at 6% here. Then they get to, usually it's a small town that you're sending the money to, so they're going to gouge you wherever it ends up there. Then they got to pay the kid because there's only one phone in the town to run to the person's house to tell them that they've got some money coming in. I mean, if they get 75% of whatever you send at the end, it's a lot. And Animal U on that, I'm sure you're one of, or you could be one of the people that come down here to South Padre. Right now, I'm at the tip of Texas at my beach house. And, the Canadians come here every year. Y'all are the snowbirds and most of them come not only for the procedures, but for the medications. We know we know a bunch of Canadians that are here every year. Not only that, but the cost of living in South Texas, at the tip of Texas, is, I mean, avocados, fresh fruit. If you're living green, you probably need to come to South Texas because this is where most of the produce, or there's a great deal of produce, and the cost of living is nothing because you're so close to the border. I don't know if you come or if you have any people that come down this far.
I went to Puerto Vallarta actually. Um, but yeah, it was beautiful, and I mean, honestly, it's such a charming part of Mexico I've never been to before.
Yeah, there's some
Uh,
great cancer, and these are American companies. It's
yeah,
American
yeah.
companies that are not allowed to work here in the United States. Most people have an impression that they're going into
my third
some
world thing.
third
Yeah.
world, and it's by no means. As a matter
It's
of
cutting
fact,
edge. It really is state of the art.
I
Well,
went,
if you
I
look
crossed the
on a
border.
conspiracy theory animal, think about like when you watch movies and people have to go to doctors in third world countries. In Mexico, it's always like, there's chickens and shit on the floor, right? Like,
It felt really
we're
cyberpunk
definitely,
actually. It
Yeah,
really
like,
felt. I was like
that's
going there
for
to
a
get
reason.
some stem cells. It was pretty surreal
yeah,
actually.
you're like a future. But you think about like that's kind of what we're filled with our whole lives, right? Like, oh, you would never don't go anywhere else to get health care. Are you crazy? You only stay in the US because they're gonna chop
It
you
is
up and
funny.
steal your kidneys. You know what I'm saying?
I actually, before I left Florida, I came down here and I had a tooth pulled, and then I was going to get my teeth cleaned. I said I didn't have time. I came here, Over there, they quoted me 1,000 to do a deep clean. They did it for $30 here, and I mean, I know the culture, and I know where to go, and I know where to ask, but that's just how much we are overpaying for our medical system here. Anyway, I
Think how
just
often you see an article too where it's like woman went to Jamaica to get a breast implant or something and they put rocks in her chest. Like just some ridiculous story, that probably that maybe there's some sort of hack out there, but it definitely makes you I think anybody in the US goes, I'll just trust what I have, right? Last thing I would do is risk my health. So it just keeps you more trapped.
yeah,
It's fear, fear
I
pumping.
think that's on purpose because uh, they don't want I don't know if Blind Dave's here or not, but I remember when he said there was a time in his life that he almost had to move to Mexico just for his insulin. He just couldn't afford it here, and over there you're paying a lot less. And there are those little towns with basically veterinarian doctors, but there's also some of the top medical, even not only here but in Spain. They say they do a lot of knee surgeries. They say if you need a knee surgery, you can go to Spain, get your knee operated, recover, stay there 3 years, learn Spanish, run with the bulls, bust your knee again, and get it fixed for cheaper than what you can get it done here in the United States after insurance.
That's crazy.
No,
Well,
it's absolutely criminal, honestly. Like it's the lobbyists, right? The big pharma lobbyists that are blocking this stuff over here. And you know why? Because it's not because it's not working. It's not because it's dangerous or satanic. It's because they won't be able to pump you full of pills if they can actually heal you. You know what I mean? And this goes back to
yeah.
crypto, and I'll just like remember Senator Warren, what she said last week. She tweeted something about how Bitcoin is playing a critical role, or like playing maybe not critical, but like an important role in the opioid epidemic in the United States, because people are able to buy, fentanyl from China with Bitcoin. And that's such a load of garbage. You know what's contributing to like the opioid epidemic? Big pharma pumping people full of like Oxycontin, right? And not allowing them to have stem cell therapy that might, actually heal their spine, might actually heal their hips and their shoulders and their knees,
Or
where they don't need
the
this
drug
stuff.
war period, you know, that you can't just you have to buy these things off the street because they aren't in a way that you can consume them in any sort of, you can't get them and not feel like you're a criminal or feel like you're going to risk going to jail or whatever. So people go to the streets because they're hooked rather than some sort of system to handle these people that are addicted to opioids that were given to them. Uh,
Right.
Probably unnecessarily. I mentioned that last week about an interview with Dr. Drew I listened to where he talked about it. It was why it all started. So, well, I don't want to get sidetracked because I think this is an interesting conversation. I love this stuff, but um, the what do you think? Like, I mean, I don't know anybody who's a migrant worker, but I would imagine like if you had, there's got to be people who are regularly communicating that there are businesses aligned with that, that service this system, not just purely the payment system, but whatever, I looked a little bit online, like there are apps where if you're here in the US from, anywhere, Nigeria or something, there are apps where you can kind of say, hey, I'm here from Nigeria, and it'll help you locate people around you that are also from Nigeria, that type of thing, right? And there's got to be communities or cultures that build up and that you have to kind of tap into in a way. Because I mean, like to me, this is a no-brainer. Like this is such the obvious way that you're going to get people to use these things and have them mean something like in a meaningful way to them beyond speculation, right?
Yeah, underground, it will work 100%. The problem with the migrant workers is they are the uneducated, and they have no, there is no reading, there's no math, they don't understand. So it has to be that simple, stupid, to where they all have a phone, and if you have that QR code, maybe, and then they could receive it because the people over there are uneducated. Most of it is still on barter. They understand the money. But everybody that deals with those people takes complete advantage. Most of the people get taken advantage of because of the lack of education.
Well, like, used to talk about the app Abra a long time ago. Um, the guy who runs that, Bill Barheit, he's pretty available. I mean, it might be something that he may be willing to reach out, but from what I remember, this may be in the past, but they have physical locations, or you can go to like a carry out in, I think it's like 70 different countries. You can bring cash with you, buy crypto, and send it somewhere. Like you go to the front to the desk, the counter, give them $100, say, hey, I want $100 in whatever
I
Bitcoin,
was
and
there.
they'll
I've been there.
deposit. You've done that before?
Yeah, when I was in the Philippines. This was a while back, like I think 2018, I want to say.
Yeah.
And they would be sorry, is my dog going crazy? But
Right.
they would be at these pawn shops basically, and some exchanges as well, currency exchanges. But yeah, you could go there. They had a person with a phone basically, and they take your money or they gave you money, depending if they received or if you sent money. It was pretty simple. Yeah, and as you're saying, as long as someone has a phone, um, that infrastructure to build out, though, I mean, it is doable. Abra was able to do it with their pawn with a lot of these stores in the Philippines, as well as exchanges. We also have MoneyGram, uh, to some degree, I guess. But it's a start to being able to send people Litecoin using their network instead of the U.S. dollar or the Litecoin network. But
But like
um,
you truly have to connect to individuals. Like I feel like you have to as silly as this is sound crazy. But you got to somebody Spanish speaking, get on those buses that are going from Detroit to San Antonio or whatever, right?
you're gonna
Wherever,
have to
however these
incentivize a
people,
person to do that.
yeah, however
Like
these
you're
people,
gonna
give them tools to communicate to people and say, look, this is how it works, and get people like what Lisa and Clint go do in their happy hour, right? You got time on a bus. Hey, if you're interested and you're spending money, you're losing money in your transfers. Here's a way to do it that's cheaper, and maybe even it's just simple. It's like you start out with a couple of cities or a couple of towns that actually it's functional. It just feels like that's the way, word of mouth and people using these tools is the way that it gets adopted. It's not going to
But
oh,
happen from
definitely
some corporate
word of
thing.
mouth is the best way of any type of form of spreading an adoption. It's
It,
personal. And sorry, hold on one second.
go ahead.
I know I've kind of just been hijacking it, but with in the Philippines, a good case study, or even looking at El Salvador's case study, but Philippines was more of a business. And they started it out, they created an application very similar to Strike, and they incentivized people to go out there to encourage these businesses to be able to accept Bitcoin and Lightning Bitcoin using their application. Um, Ideally, though, like start a business that does that, and then go out there and incentivize people by earning them rewards for getting businesses to accept Bitcoin. And those businesses, I mean, obviously, you got the chicken, but or the egg, I guess, but you still need the chicken. That's the other hard part, though, and I think that's been the biggest issue in El Salvador. I mean, a lot of people do go down there. A lot of tourism has gone down there and it has increased because of Bitcoin. And so those businesses would see that. They see that they're getting users using this currency, and that's a great way to go about it. I think that's probably one of the better approaches um, in getting people to adopt it and use it.
I just wonder if I'm a shop owner in El Salvador and I'm selling whatever. I don't know how much. I don't know that it adds any value to my life to receive payment in Lightning Bitcoin versus the U.S. dollar. You know what I'm saying?
It
Because
does.
Well,
I wasn't losing anything.
so this
I wasn't
business,
paying a fee
yeah,
beforehand. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, no. So this business in the Philippines, they were using Lightning, and the person who was receiving it, the store owner, they would receive Philippine peso. So they
Okay.
didn't even have to deal with Bitcoin. But obviously, they have that option, right? You could just say, yeah, I want some percentage or whatever, or at least that functionality is doable.
It is,
Um,
and there's always an
yeah.
entrepreneur that will go, I understand the value of Litecoin in that town. Put it this way, you or me or anybody else understanding the value of Litecoin would go, okay. In other words, they get it to their phone, they come to me, I cash them out in their peso, in their native country. And I think we've talked about it with Mega that, there are places in Brazil where they take Monero and different other coins that they call the cuevas. So people actually go there. Yeah, do they get charged a certain percentage? Sure. I mean, anybody that touches it is going to make money, but they are 10 times better off than the current system that is totally gouging them. And that's just an opinion. And also knowing the people that are doing it. Those towns, there is no cell service in those towns. So, um, and for you to do it on the bus underground, let me just finish with this
I mean, I'm
real
not. Yeah, I
quick.
mean, go ahead.
It would have to be with pictures because a lot of the migrants, the ones that you're wanting to live in those towns. In other words, they want to send it, they can. And if it's 3 or 4 pictures, QR code this, and you sent your money with a happy face, you've got a very loyal clientele in South America. They are whatever, if it's Tide, everybody uses Tide. I don't know what you call that, but everybody is very loyal, product loyal, I guess. And once you get it, you're done. That's it. There's no way that another company, even if they're charging a lot less, will take over that market
Yeah, and I'm not
because
even
they're
talking about
loyal.
creating I'm not even creating a company. I mean, I do feel like it would make sense to really dig into like where are the places that you can uh, be most valuable to those people. Um, and I would tell you, and I invited him in. I'm not sure if he's going to come in, but we have a we have a big ally down there. That Aaron Diaz Chavez that used to come in here. He's got a channel, Bit Venue, I think it is. He's got like 60,000 followers. It's Spanish speaking financial news. He talks crypto. He's a big Litecoiner. And he's the type of guy that, you know, if we could communicate with him, he puts the word out there. Who knows? One of his listeners might be interested, because it sounds like the type of thing, honestly. I think of like a Greenpeace or what's the thing that oh shit. What is it like college kids used to go do where they'd go the Peace Corps, something like that,
Yes.
right? Where it's like, hey, maybe you raise money, you get some people out there that are just out to spread the word, which I think is what Bitcoin Beach was basically like, right? And instead of it being this stationary people, but literally targeting the thing that has the most where there is so much value to be had. I mean, if you're losing 5 to 10 to 20% of your money because of money changers and you can avoid that, why wouldn't you be interested and why wouldn't you be loyal if someone came up and said could change. I mean, that's a significant change to somebody's finances. You're talking disposable income, right?
That's exactly how it will work. Look, these people, there's always somebody, if there's money to be made, and there will be a channel for it. It's just somebody's got to be the first. It's already happening in Brazil, but it just happens to be Monero seems to be what they've gravitated to. In other coins, I don't know much about Brazil, but I have talked to people from Brazil, and they go to a certain place and it's you would call it a black market, but it's not a black market. It's just a market where people they want out of their money, and I think they would love it for 2 reasons. It's not as volatile as their peso or whatever the hell they use, or the dollar or anything else. So once the main guy is there, he will do all the promoting. If I'm the guy in the little town and I'm the one handling Litecoin, I want to be the biggest guy to where everybody comes to me. That will be the incentive for them to uh, create that because there is now a market for Litecoin. Others will follow, but the first one, well, he gets further ahead.
I mean, this goes back to like Animal. I'm gonna let you talk right after this. Sorry, I know you've had your hand up.
Oh, good.
It makes me think about, when we've talked about like this ethos or whatever of Litecoin, you know, doing something to be like kind of a good steward of Litecoin, that you're not, that if you are somebody who's gonna be facilitating, I don't know, I'm I'm turning your cash into Litecoin or vice versa. I'm helping you out. I'm not going to charge you some exorbitant fee, right? Like usury or something like that. Like 2% is a fair fee, flat out. That's it. So if you're a Litecoiner, don't ever charge more than that. I don't know. Go ahead. Just a thought. Go ahead, Animal.
Have you Cake did the or what Cake Wallet released this week? Its ability to send Litecoin to anyone with a Litecoin address in their Twitter bio.
They've had that for a little bit, but
Oh, have they?
yeah,
Okay.
bird pay they call it. Yeah.
That's pretty good. And I wonder if that could be somehow used if, because you guys are talking about having pictures of QR codes. What if someone just gives you their Twitter handle?
Oh, that's
Um,
true.
it can make it, they don't need their phone on them at the moment. They don't even need to have a QR code. They could just tell you their Twitter handle. Um,
Well, and they may even be able to incorporate other ways that, again, like let's say there's apps that people use in Latin America that we don't use here, where they could maybe find ways to incorporate that as well, right? And that's a good point. Those guys are, I mean, they're so supportive of just getting people to use these coins. They're big in Monero, right, Javier? So if there is a lot of Monero use in Latin America, that might be something they'd be interested in helping out with as well.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Underground. The gouging only comes at the beginning. As people learn that you can have your own phone and your own wallet and your own, all of a sudden, that's where the explosion comes. It doesn't, so, yeah, the guy gets it started because he's the one making the money at the beginning because he knows how to operate the computer or the phone. But very shortly, when it is just about whatever QR codes or whatever, and it's that simple, there will be more. And then people go, we don't need a third party. It goes back to peer to peer. So now I'm sending you the money, and they know how to convert it into cash. So it will grow that way, but it starts off the other way. Somebody taking advantage.
No, I
yeah,
mean,
I feel like Elon's probably going to corner this market with his X app. Because Twitter's like worldwide, it's global, right? And the X app is going to model itself after WeChat, um, which is restricted to China, or mostly restricted. I think most of the functionality is restricted to China and to Chinese nationals.
And sadly, I
I
agree with you. Just one quick. Sadly, I agree with you. Elon Musk has been in Charo days here in Brownsville, Texas, which is right here on the border. No protection, no nothing. He said he would show up. He showed up. There's pictures of him on the street, or at least a guy that looks a lot like him. So he is close to this border, and people absolutely love him across the border.
interesting.
Yeah,
How do you say Rocket Man in Spanish?
Pendejo.
Don't tell these people that. I'm not that stupid, Javier.
have you guys been like hearing this Adrian guy though in these spaces? I swear to God, he is Elon
yes,
Musk. Like I don't hear
he's
any.
got the same.
Yeah, sorry
Yeah, he's
guys.
got the same kind of accent.
Everybody's conspiracy theorying around fake accounts.
Yeah, he's
Adrian
got the
is his
same
name?
accent, the way he talks everywhere. Like there isn't any difference I can tell, really, to be honest. It's pretty
What's
crazy.
his
But in terms of
what's
XI,
his
And he's
name?
really
What's his
smart
full
he
name?
as
is.
well.
Um, one thing I was thinking about, like in terms of XI, I'm pretty excited for it, happily. And I think he's going to integrate Tesla self-driving. Just imagine requesting a Tesla like Uber or Lyft, and it shows up, and you're using the X app, and you got the social media component, like you're saying, or like what the way it is now, and also payments. It really is. I haven't messed with WeChat, but there's other ones in the Philippines similar where it's basically everything in one application. It's pretty cool.
No, and I
All
mean,
right.
if you can have the ability to start a store, for example, like some kind of a merchant portal in the X app, right? I mean, that's the whole. Then you have the whole package, right? You don't need anything else. You don't, barely even need a website.
Oh, definitely. Um, and then using the self-driving cars to be able to deliver it, and you got the money right there as well. It's an all-in-one. It really will be an all-in-one. I can already imagine it now, envision it, and um, yeah, I think it'll be a pretty big player in the space for sure.
It'd be interesting if he did that and he just incorporated like, you know, whatever's considered a commodity or something and just did on chain and didn't do any lightning or anything. Just so it was like Doge and
Sorry, did it go
Litecoin.
quiet or is it me?
MWeb, yeah, it's just you. MWeb built in. That'd be nice.
I like how you said it's just you, like he could hear you.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, yeah, I mean, I think these are things that if anybody in here, if you listen to this, if you've got any connections or insight, I feel like I might try to reach out to MoneyGram. Um, I'd be really interested to learn what it is what their business model is. I mean, obviously they don't want to be cut out, but if they're allowing users to hold and send Litecoin, what's how do they factor into that? I'm guessing they custody the coins, which I also think, I mean, I hate to sound like a Bitcoiner these days, but custody to me is something that certainly in the early stages is something people I think need to feel comfortable before they take that next step of, holding your keys. I don't know. I don't know if the best way is to just break them in and say, here, figure it out, or if it's like kind of put up some guardrails.
I mean, MoneyGram could always use multi-sig, right? Whether or not they would go through those, yeah, whether or not their clients would even want to start to understand that
Well,
is
what's
another
the
story.
benefit? What's the benefit for MoneyGram? They certainly want to keep their customers, and
Right. It adds complexity and would certainly it would be best if it were optional. Like if someone who's more technical and maybe if someone had more money stored, for example, like they might want to go through that extra step and make the effort.
I don't think that's
But
the.
yeah,
I don't think most people, and that's one of the interesting parts. I think we sit here and talk store value, store value, store value, um, and that's important. But the reality is, gosh, 90% of the world probably doesn't store a whole lot of value in money. They're probably not storing much value at all. Most people are living very week to week. Even in the the quote unquote richest country in the world was like 60% of people live paycheck to paycheck. So you have to imagine that it's more about having as much as you can available to you and not having it taken from you. Yeah, I've always said like it's funny when you think about inflation. Granted, I'm picking on Bitcoin, but if you pay over the course of like let's say every month you pay 1% of your transactions go to fees, that's like a 12% inflation fee essentially. If you're paying just these, it's more expensive than inflation to pay transaction fees. That's all I'm trying to say. All right, I'm gonna move on. Unless you guys want to talk about, do we want to create Litecoin Lagoon somewhere in Belize? I think Belize is the place to go. Anybody got
well,
any
I mean,
connections in Belize?
someplace with stem cells, please. Like we could all be like Litecoin vampires. Telling you that stuff is insane. Like stem cells are crazy, man. Like, they're so cool.
So what'd you do? Did you get recovered? Are you like 100%?
Well, immediately, like after the first day, my shoulder just feels so much better. I'm able to sleep without taking any pain meds, and wake up rested. Like I wasn't tossing and turning at night. And the other thing is with the IV, this stuff, like I like had an IV of 100 million stem cells. Um, and this stuff just goes through like all your arteries and your veins, and it kind of just kills all the inflammation that you have in your fingers, your toes, wherever, your heart. Oh my God. So it goes straight for the heart. So if you've got a bunch of cholesterol, maybe like faulty valves or something like that, it'll go in there and heal it, like reduce the inflammation and heal it. And then after it goes in the lungs. So like, honestly, if you're like athletic at all, and even if you're in good shape and you have nothing wrong with you, getting an IV of this stuff is going to boost your performance like in a supernatural and healthy way. There's other, you can do other stuff. Sorry if I'm going on about this, but like, so people have who are going bald or who have alopecia, they can have it injected into their scalp and their hair will grow back. It's literally like the fountain of youth, and it feels like the second day, the first day I was traveling still, like I was kind of exhausted, but the second day, I kid you not, I woke up in the morning and it felt like fucking lightning would come out of my fingertips. You know, like I felt like I was Goku going Super Saiyan. Like it was
You feel like a
insane.
kid again? You feel like a kid again?
Yeah, like I woke up and I felt good. I wasn't sore. I wasn't like I felt rested. Like I just had a really good nap and like I woke up feeling great. But like I normally don't have that, right? I normally never feel like it's been a long time since I felt that way.
Yeah,
Hey,
animal. It's almost like they're keeping us from something
Yeah.
here in the United States. I'm just saying. I don't know.
It's almost like they're satanic, you know? It's almost like they're the
Yeah,
criminals.
no, it's well, if you know the thing of the AIDS, it wasn't that it was cured. It's basically that the thing with AIDS is the same thing with the coronavirus and everything else. Heavy zinc, vitamin D, vitamins is what took care of it. It just didn't kind of profit big pharma. And so over there, because of the most of the population is poor, it's just not worth gouging. Nobody would go to any of those places for for medical care. But I know all the Canadians here, they go to Progresso. There's actually a parking lot there that you just leave your car here in the United States. You walk across, and that for dental, you name it, right there in about a mile area, you can get just absolutely anything you want, including medications
But and
that
that's
are extremely
it's the
expensive.
medication, right? Because over there medications are like a quarter of the price of what they are in Canada, and probably like
Oh, they're a lot. They're a
one
lot less than a
hundredth.
quarter. They're a lot less
Yeah,
than a
well,
quarter. And not only that, you got to be careful because they don't deal in amphetamine. I mean, they don't deal in the legal ones. A lot of the legal ones that more of the ones that get you high. They do sell them there. The mafia runs that street, but they are the ones selling you the bullshit. Uh, the other one, there's a way of knowing what medication is right. And usually with a prescription, the doctor will send you to the right pharmacy. But yeah, that's, if, I don't know if Blind Dave was in here or not, but it was so ridiculous. I think it was $1,200 a month for him for his diabetes medicine. And over there, you know, it was, I don't know, but it was whatever it was, it
it was
wouldn't
like
have
three
been over
bucks.
a, yeah, it would be $15 a month. I don't know. It's it's like I had a quote to get my deep cleaning and I would have gone, but I didn't have time. When I went over here, my cousin said, "Yeah, go over here," and I was like, "What? 30?" I'm like, "Well, whatever they do." It was a deep cleaning. I mean, it was truly a deep cleaning, and it was $30. How much are they overcharging over there? Over here?
right.
Yeah, it's criminal. It's absolutely criminal. I don't know how we were like, man. I was talking to
I'm
my
gonna.
doctor, and it's so discouraging that they
The
believe
only
it,
thing,
you know?
the only thing that is not counted against your credit here in the United States is going to the hospital. If you don't pay your bills after 7 years, it's dropped. It doesn't go against your credit scores. Believe it or
But so
not,
you have to declare bankruptcy anyways, or
no, you don't. You don't. You
oh,
just don't. What happens is the rest of the taxpayers, the rest of the idiots pay for it. Uh, the the hospitals get paid, or they wouldn't be here. So it goes there, and then it goes to collections from there. The collectors probably don't get it, but the reason is, I mean, I was in Florida, I got a kidney stone, I went in, I asked them, hey, listen, I have this insurance. They go, we don't worry about the insurance. You're here and you need to be taken care of. Fine, I was there one day, passed the kidney stone. I started getting bills because my insurance wasn't covered in Florida, $60,000. They said I saw three doctors. I never saw it. Was Thanksgiving Day. Nobody was there. And I said, I refuse to pay this bill. Sue me. And I'm willing to go to court. And if I do, I'm going to go. I never saw that doctor. I never saw this doctor. I'm willing to pay what I have, but I had insurance for a reason. And they told me not to worry. And so now, well, my ex-wife was in mortgage, and she was a VP of Chase Manhattan Bank. And I was aware that the only credit scores that don't go against you is hospital.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
an insane
because of
story,
the
dude.
amount of fraud that's going on. And if you go to the hospital, just go back and look at it, and they're going to send you bills for things that never happened. I mean, it's a mafia.
And you can haggle them over this stuff, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
if
after it goes to collections, they'll want to settle as soon as you pay a little bit. The bill will never stop. In other words, you pay that collection person. Uh, they'll say 3,000 will settle. I've had them for 3,000 that they want to settle the whole damn thing for 3,000, but it's not. You settle that, now the other guy comes after you, and the other guy comes after you. So it's not going against my score. After 7 years, I have to drop it here in the United States. And it's not that I want to do that, but I have insurance for a reason. And when they did that to me, I was like, well, you're not going to come after me because sue me. I mean, I'm okay. Take me to court. I'll go to court. I'll explain what happened. $60,000 for overnight stay on a kidney stone. Basically, they gave me antibiotics, and I passed it. And now they're
I
I
did
mean,
that too a little
you did
bit.
all the work, for crying out loud.
yes, I gave birth through. I gave birth through my dick. That's what I felt like. Excuse my language.
No, speaking of that, I remember my second child, we went to the hospital at it was late at night, maybe like 11:30, and they're like, well, here, just go wait in the waiting room because she wasn't having, or whatever, contractions weren't fast enough. And we sat there, it's like 2 in the morning, and then end up having the baby the next morning. A few weeks later, I get the bill, and it was like, they charged me for staying in the hospital the first night, and I was like, well, I didn't stay there. We sat in a waiting room. I wasn't like literally when we got there at 11:30, they were trying to charge me for staying in the hospital for those 30 minutes of like $2,500 or some shit. And I was like, but I wasn't even there. Like I was in a waiting room. I didn't have a room, and I just like you said, Javier, I just refused to pay. I was like, you guys can go through this. You gotta show me video camera of when I was in a room. It didn't happen, right? And eventually they'll back off when they're pushed against the wall. But a lot of people probably just unknowingly pay that. It's I mean, yeah, the whole system's kind of jacked up. It was too bad. But
Most people pay it, and then they will give you BS charges, and the government already. I mean, they already know that, and it doesn't matter. The doctors get paid. Everybody gets paid. It's just through our tax pay. It's just somebody else paying something else.
just came in. Al, I was talking about you earlier. If you want to come up, because we had a long conversation about the whole remittance story. Can you kind of recap the story you had about your wife's family or something? Your in-laws are overseas. I don't know if you can. If you can't come up, just give me a thumbs down or something. Oh, here he comes. I suppose I should invite you up instead of just ordering you to request. But hey, what's going on?
Hey, I'm actually outside right now. I don't know if you can hear me well.
Yeah, I got you.
Right. Yeah. So a few years ago, so I mean, some people might know, but I actually lived in Mexico for a while. But I was studying in college in Mexico, and that's where I met my now wife. But when I came back to the U.S., she was still there. Like she still had to finish up her school and everything. So we were actually separate for like 2 years. But during that 2 year period, she needed money for certain things and she wasn't working. So I told her set up an account on your it's called Bitso. It's the Mexican exchange, the largest exchange. And I was sending her Litecoin. But the cool thing about that exchange is that you can actually cash out to Mexican pesos like almost immediately. In like half an hour, like she would send it over and have it in her ATM. And after that, she became a believer in crypto. That was like, she's like, holy shit, like this is incredible.
Where in Mexico did she live?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
What city did she live in? Was she near the border or Mexico City or what?
She was in the state of Guanajuato, which is it's like 5 hours driving from Mexico City, like deep down.
And so was this what, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, this was maybe like what was this 2019, 2019, 2018, around there.
And what like is I'm assuming she had a phone at the time. Like this is, Javier was bringing up earlier, like maybe not everybody has the devices or because I was more focused on the migrant workers, right? I mean, I don't know enough about Mexico. I don't want to ask ridiculous questions, but I mean, is there a big divide between kind of the city life of Mexicans and the migrant worker culture, or are there a lot of non-tech savvy people down there?
It's a little different. I would say they use technology a little differently than we do. Like everyone has or at least everyone I've met in Mexico has their iPhone or Samsung, whatever. I mean, it might just be like in the very rural communities where people don't really have these types of gadgets. But what they do use a lot inside of Mexico is so they don't have like a Venmo, Zelle type of stuff like we do here, but they all go to their local convenience stores, say like a 7-Eleven, Circle K sort of stores. There's like a ton of those, and they send money to each other through those little stores. But it's like super convenient, like because those stores are literally everywhere. So you just like walk over and you send it over to someone's account, and they send money to each other that way. But I mean, crypto could work somehow.
Is it like a Western Union thing though?
So I'm not so sure how that actually works. So, for example, I live in Southern California, so there's like a shit ton of immigrants around here, and there's a lot of those little money shops, like the remittances, like Western Union, all that. And like if you go on a Friday afternoon, they're all packed, like people just sending money home. So, I mean, there's a lot of potential, but I think it would just come down to trying to target that crowd, which might be the hard thing to do.
Well, you wonder the store owners, right? Like they're just using whatever's available to them, something like Western Union. And this is where like something like Strike actually probably would be super valuable to those people. Granted, it's only Bitcoin, but if you could replace Western Union for the shop owners and say, "Hey, here's another," like find a way to simplify it for them and say, "Look, here's a way you can send money and not and either maybe your profits increase or you're able to offer a better rate to your customers and you're just borrowing the Litecoin network for however long it takes for that money to go from A to B, right?"
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I've been over the past few months, like I've been kind of brainstorming, like what could be a good way to like we're going down that rabbit hole, the remittance. But I always come to the conclusion, like I think I messaged you earlier, like eventually people are gonna find out that they can just directly send it through a wallet, right? Like instead of having to go to one of these shops. I mean, that probably is the first step. Just
Yeah.
slightly dumbing it down for people, and then from there they can figure it out on their own.
I'm not so focused on like, hey, I got to create a business around it. I'm just thinking it's the natural place to see adoption. Chief, you came up. I know you're down in Southern California. Are you guys buddies or neighbors or what?
No, no, no. But I do have a question. Al, what was the exchange where you sent the Litecoin or the crypto to your girlfriend? What was it?
Bitso. I think it's the largest exchange in Mexico, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Coinbase was like trying to buy them out or something. But
So
it's like the
is it
number one.
BITXO?
BITSO.
Oh, it's okay. BITXO. Is it still up or?
Yeah, yeah. The exchange owner, I'm not sure if you guys have seen pictures of like Samson Mao, like in Mexico, like trying to talk to politicians. Like that guy's usually with him.
I haven't seen them.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential people sending money around. But yeah, like you were saying, education is probably number one.
Yeah, because I gotta figure out because I got family in Mexico as well, and I gotta figure out what's the easiest way to introduce crypto to. Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for example, you said once you did it with your girlfriend, she quickly got it and understood it, and she thought it was cool. With me, it's a little different. It took like around a year and a half for my girlfriend to kind of like when it clicked, when I noticed it, like, oh shit. So this, because it's when we did a MWeb transaction, like maybe 4 weeks ago, or maybe like a month ago, I'm sorry. And then I did a MWeb transaction to her, and then she's like, oh, this is like cash. And it just clicked to her. And it took a year and a half since I've been talking to her about crypto. So it's I don't know what kind of stories you guys have, but mine took forever.
Yeah, I guess mine just saw money show up in her bank account, and this is fucking awesome.
Well, it's like magic, and then hopefully eventually they stop cashing out, right? And they realize like, well, why even bother? If uh if you can find certainly if you can find some of these shop owners that are doing the money changing, maybe they say, well, heck, I'll just accept it, right?
Yeah, so maybe someone who would be good to target on Twitter would be that Ricardo Salinas guy. So he's one of Mexico's richest people, and he's into Bitcoin. But it's interesting that his dad was actually the president of Mexico's Silver Association, and he owns one of the large electronics chain, like the kind of like a Best Buy type of store in Mexico. And I believe that they're actually working with getting people to send money from the U.S. over to those. I believe the store is called Electra, and they're already kind of doing that. But at the moment, he's just Bitcoin only. But I mean, his dad is really into silver, and he's probably into silver. So maybe somehow we can kind of try like DMing him or find Litecoin and silver.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just look at it like, I don't know, man. There's always going to be somebody who wants to be the intermediary, right? If they can collect a fee, like it's here's the old boss, same or new boss, same as the old boss, right? Like if I'm paying 6% to Western Union and I'm paying 5% to whoever this guy is, like how much has my life really improved? I feel like that grassroots, that ability to talk to the people that actually move the money and say, here's an option for you, or what are the challenges that they face? Onboarding is probably the biggest challenge. How do I turn the US dollars I make at my day job into crypto and not pay some sort of ridiculous fee? That's our biggest hurdle. Like an
Yeah,
ATM, imagine an ATM with 0% fees. How much freaking crypto would you sell? Or a half a
shit ton.
percent? Anywhere. You could put that machine anywhere. I might put one in my front yard. Shit.
Yeah,
There's
so
a
the thing is, a lot of immigrants, they're illegals, right? So it would have to be some sort of non KYC,
yeah.
easy to use service that they can. Do you guys know any?
For cash into crypto. or like bank account into crypto? Well, bank account you're KYCing already.
Yo, guys, I got it. I got it. In
Yeah.
Mexico, dude, you just have to get the cartels on board.
Oh, I'm not gonna have that conversation. You knock yourself out.
Dude, I'm pretty sure they already have to be using that stuff. Like, yeah, they're smart.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that sucks is you have to really, if I sell crypto to somebody for cash, what's the implication to me as an individual? Am I allowed to do that? Am I allowed to go on Coinbase, buy a bunch of, go to my bank, take a bunch of cash. Let's say I take $3,000 in cash, put it in my bank, deposit it onto Coinbase, and buy crypto. So I have it available to me. And then when someone wants to buy it, I just sell it to them for cash. Is that illegal? I don't know. Am I an exchange? What am I doing at that point? If I feed a machine with, put a machine in my front yard, whatever, I have a shop and I put a machine out there that allows people to deposit cash and take crypto, what's the legal ramifications?
You know what we're missing? You remember, what's that Bitcoin faucet thing where they were just giving Bitcoin away?
Yeah.
They're not gonna give Litecoin or Bitcoin away anymore in 2023, but I guess that's what's missing. Being able to give um Litecoin and showing them how easy it is to use, because most of the people, especially we're talking about people that don't make enough money and living paycheck to paycheck, they're not going to be wanting to just give you $40, $50 and be like, okay, show me something. And where they can think of is my money's going to go down or my money's going to go up.
Yeah, but dude, think if, okay, we're on the deposit end. If I'm a migrant worker, I'm sending money back to my family every week and 10% is going away. Let's say just use that number. And someone says, look, and handles it as open board. Like, I mean, if it's $50, are you gonna, you'll say, look, let's walk through this process. I'll I'll just hold on to the cash. I'll put it right on the table. If you get pissed off, you just tell it. But send it, be on the phone or text with your person on the other end, your kids or your wife, whatever. And when they receive it, that's step one, right? You've eliminated the front end cost. They've been able to hand over cash, and the entire amount is sent to their partner on the other side. Now, granted, I'm talking in very weird terms here because there's no business where people are just going to walk to my house and make this happen. But you get my meaning here. And then on the other end, how do they turn that into a good, pay their rent with it?
That's the most important part.
Right. How do they actually make that happen? And if once that bridge is crossed, and maybe it's just their landlord. Maybe they can get to an agreement with their landlord to, hey, can I just pay my wife's rent with Litecoin? Are you good with that? Boom. Well, that's every month they're going to do that. Why wouldn't they? It costs them zero, I mean, whatever, a tenth of a penny to make that transaction happen. So maybe, I don't know. I just think that is the way that people will adopt this stuff. If it's all going to be in custodial accounts and people are just going to speculate on these assets, it just loses so much meaning to what it can actually do for people.
Yeah, I feel that there's got to be an incentive for someone to want to do that. And in some countries, like it's already happening, right? You got hyperinflation is all that needs to happen for people to want to stay out of the US dollar and to go into something more stable. Unfortunately, I think, yeah, that would solve the whole problem with people not wanting to transact in it. Because I've asked my landlord before if he would take crypto, and he wasn't interested at all. And even when it was up,
He's probably afraid of it.
sure. But I mean, I guess most people's landlords are probably older than they are, right? And this guy wasn't necessarily a tech guy.
I think it's a little bit of the age. I think it's, again, the legality is definitely what I think worries a lot of people. And that's where the people at the, to me, I don't know. I'm making a lot of assumptions. I don't know any migrant workers. I'm sorry. I'm not, if I'm saying things out of turn that sound horrible, but like when people don't have a whole lot to lose, those are the people that are most likely to try this stuff out. Maybe take a roll of dice. Well, shit, I'm paying 20% every month. 20% of my money goes to these fucking guys who just move my money from A to B. If you're telling me you can make that 0 or 2% or 4%, hell yeah, I'll give it a shot. It works 1 or 2 times, it's off to the races. And then they're going to tell everybody they know, dude, stop paying 20%. You can just use Litecoin, you know, talk to your landlord, go to your local shop. This store accepts it. It doesn't take long, I guess, right?